Due to Jason's situation on the last stream, this video will have no comedy in it.
Okay, I came up with my own Dark Souls joke, but the Twitch chat didn't appreciate it, neither did my Twitter. So you are my last hope, YouTube, to show me that you have a sense of humor. All right, here's the joke. It's a dad joke. What is the Unkindled One's favorite dinner? Dinner rolls. Because he likes to roll.
See? No comedy at all.
Welcome back, Classic Crew, to another Dark Souls journal. It's not the last one. Fortunately or fortunately, as I have failed my pledge once again. Last time I left you with 2 bosses left to kill, and today I leave you with 1 boss left to kill. The Nameless King is my official big Dark Souls wall. I've never been walled on a boss in Dark Souls that's gone over 2 streams, and I hope it doesn't go beyond that. But Nameless King has walled me, and I'm gonna have to keep trying. I was very close to beating him though this past week. I had 2 hits left on him, and he was dead. He would have been done. He would have been a score, just a score on my scorecard. But unfortunately, I wasn't good enough to land those 2 hits, and he killed me. So this past week, before we got into the Nameless King shuffle, someone said, "Oh, there's a little mini boss nearby you should try out who has the full like Havel armor." So I fought him. It was a very good little warm up, and then I went after the Nameless King with proper intent to kill him. So last stream, the one before for the last journal, I had only really gotten to the Nameless King phase, saw it once, and I was like, nope, we're gonna come back to this later. Now I was going in, I was like, all right, I gotta learn the Nameless King's pattern, gotta learn what makes him tick, and I was getting much better at rolling and learning the tempo to get through his attacks and learning what his attack moves are. So I was bashing my head on that boss for a good hour, and I was starting to get him more consistently to his half health when he starts pulling out his electric attacks. And because I didn't know how to deal with those, I was dying a lot. I was also dying a lot to his Drake or whatever it's called, just because I needed to remember how to play it, and the camera was giving me issues. I was having depth perception issues. And anyways, I'm going to get back to that because Nameless King, I made it to Nameless King half health. And then I just decided, you know what? Let's go try taking on the Soul of Cinder to see if I can fare better that. Because last journal I shared how when I was watching the VOD, I was like, this boss doesn't look that hard. I feel I can go into it. I was just a little bit overwhelmed by the emotions or just fear, whatever it was. So I went back to Soul of Cinder, and going from Nameless King, fighting Nameless King for an hour, and then going to Soul of Cinder, he moves so slow. I was like, oh, there's the windup. I roll through that, and I can dodge. And when he would hit me, my health was so not punishing. Like Nameless King, it's pretty much once he hits you once, you're stunned, and then he finishes you off. Soul of Cinder doesn't hit you so hard that you have time to recover and basically recover from your mistake. So I died a few times to Soul of Cinder simply because he was pulling out a lot of new moves that I wasn't expecting sometimes. I was like, oh, what's this move? What's that move? But once I got comfortable with his moveset, which was about 2 or 3 deaths, I was able to kill Soul of Cinder fairly comfortably. And then, and it was a fun fight. I have to say Soul of Cinder, and I also have to say Nameless King is a fun fight too. I do enjoy both, even if I have not killed Nameless King yet. When I was getting the tempo right and like I'm dodging through his moves and like slash on him, dodge, slash, like once you're getting that beat and that rhythm, oh, it feels so good and so rewarding. It really does remind me of the Velkhana fight from the Arc-Tempered Velkhana fight from Monster Hunter World Iceborne, which a lot of you have said would be a similar tempo, and I agree, it is. So the Soul of Cinder has died, and the Touch the Darkness lady shows up, and everybody's like, don't kill her, don't kill her. And I was like, well, what's going to happen? And I think, yeah, I touched the fire, and she's like, oh, a fire. She's about to touch it. I'm like, what am I doing? And then things are getting dim. I'm like, oh no, it's getting dark. Is she putting out the fire? Should I kill her? If I kill her, is this how we keep the flame going? And I was so tempted to just slash her, and people are like, don't you dare kill her. And I was like, should I not? And they're like, the good ending is if you don't kill her. And then everything went dark, and she's like, there, now we're in the darkness together. And this is where I had my controversial take of saying, is the Age of Darkness really that bad? And the whole chat's like, yes, the Age of Fire is a bad thing. We all want the Age of Darkness. Because they were saying because it was, the Age of Fire was brought about by Gwyn Gwyn or Gwen? Gwen, probably. I was like, well, was Gwyn really so bad? I mean, at least we're all kind of sort of alive in the Age of Fire. I mean, we can actually see things. We can see the beautiful architecture. There are travels to be had and NPCs to be wandered and monsters to be fought. At least the Age of Fire has something versus the Age of Darkness has literally nothing to offer. There's nothing to see, and somehow that is the good ending. Now, I've heard arguments that, well, the Age of Fire enslaved humanity and that everybody's a zombie, but I'm like, at least you got something, and versus the Age of Darkness, you have nothing. Now, devil's advocate, I hear that the Age of Darkness brings about the Age of Humanity, but that's not really explained other than like a little moment where I think the Oracle or whatever, the Firekeeper says, oh, I see like the little dancing flames in the future. So, okay, if the Age of Darkness brings back the Age of Humanity where the humans are there without the gods, sure, that's the good ending. But the way that this game presents it to the player, I'm not a big fan of the Age of Darkness because it's just basically, oh, the bonfire that you love and cherish so much, we're just going to put it out and everything's dark, roll credits. And once again, that is very unsatisfying. It felt like the exact same ending to Dark Souls 1, except there was a little bit more because in Dark Souls 1, you touch the bonfire as usual and they just go like, do you want to light it? And I was like, yeah, I want to light it. And then they were like, roll credits, start the game again. I was like, what happened? At least this time you have a bit of a cutscene. You're not quite sure what's going on, but if you play Dark Souls 1, you know. So I kind of knew the Age of Darkness was coming when things were dimming, but I thought there'd be like a cue or something to let me have a decision on what to do. So not a big fan of the story of Dark Souls 3 once again. Now, I'm probably going to have to watch a lot of lore, but before I do that, I have downloaded the DLC and I am working my way through it. So we'll see how far I get through the DLC and then I will do the lore. So while the Nameless King is there, I'm going to keep wandering in the DLC. Because after Soul of Cinder, so I made it through the credits. And by the way, a lot of people didn't seem to know this, but in Dark Souls 3, even if you go through the credits, at the end, the game asks, do you want New Game Plus or do you want to keep playing? So it's not like Dark Souls 1 where you get yeeted back to the beginning in New Game Plus regardless of what you want. So Dark Souls 3 is much more player friendly to give you the choice. And even if you go back to playing, at any point you can go to your Firelink Shrine bonfire and you can select New Game Plus from there at any moment. So now you all know. Public service announcement. So after Soul of Cinder was dead, I was like, well, that went down too fast. I don't want to go back to the Nameless King and get pounded for another 2 hours. So let's go see what the DLC is about. So I think the first one is the painting of Ariel or something. It's not that, but you go into a painting and there are 2 bosses in the first DLC. So I went out to do that and it's like this really beautiful snow-covered landscape, which it's just so beautiful. I don't think I've seen snow landscapes in Dark Souls yet. And well, I mean, all the landscapes in Dark Souls 3 are just beautiful. So like seeing this was just wonderful to like walk around and see everything. There were knights kind of walking around that I had to pick a fight with those and like they would go down in 2 hits. I was like, oh, these mobs are also good because I was kind of scared, a common theme in this Dark Souls journey, because everybody was saying the DLC is on par with like Nameless King. Well, they said the bosses and they said the mobs were kind of a pain. So I was like, oh shoot, this is going to be a struggle. So when I found my first mob to be quite manageable, I was like, oh, not so bad. So I keep going. There's a shiny in the snows. I'm like, okay, let's pick up the shiny. And then everything collapses and I fall and I'm surrounded by all these wolves. And I was like, oh no. So I start killing one wolf. I'm like, oh, these go down easy. It's okay. But then they keep howling. I was like, oh, don't tell me they summon wolves when they howl. And I just kept like slashing wolves and they more kept coming. I was like, oh, this just doesn't end. So I started running and then there was like an alpha wolf that's like super mega wolf. I was like, oh, come on. So I run the other way and then there's a mob of soldiers and the wolves are coming and the alpha wolf. And then I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to die right here. So it took me a while to figure out what path to go to not have to deal with that. And I eventually made it down like, it was a bridge. I made it through this bridge. And earlier in one of my earlier journals, I saw a bridge and I was like, oh, I wish I could cut this. And I tried cutting at the end of the bridge to like make it fall behind me so the mobs couldn't follow. And it didn't cut there. And I thought you couldn't cut. And then everyone taught me you can cut on the bridge. So this was a very similar bridge. I'm like, I bet you can cut this. So let's make it to the other end and we'll cut at the last moment. I'm like, here I go. I'm going to cut my drop, whatever it's called, my bridge, so that rope bridge, so that just for the funsies, because I knew you could do it. So I bash R1 and my sword bounces off the rope, launching my character into the air, off the bridge, down the ground. And I died. And like, is this an intentional troll or did I just find a bug? Anyways, I'm pretty sure it was a bug, but man, the timing of that was just hilarious. And after that, we made it into a church, and everybody, there was like a guard out there. He was talking to me about a woman inside who I had heard that name. I forget the name right now. I didn't write it down. And I heard that name. I think she is a boss because it starts with an F, Frida or something, Freed. But she didn't seem too harmless. She just kind of sat there and being like, get out of my painting. I was like, all right, after I'm done killing you later. So I kept exploring. There wasn't much to do here. I went to the bottom, and then the chat kind of guided me. Oh, I played around with some ice crabs. By playing around, I mean I ran through them because I'm not messing with ice crabs. And then there were ice trees, which were pretty cool. I killed those pretty fast. And then I made it to a boss, thanks to chat, which was the Champion's Gravetender. And this fight gave me a little bit of vibes from Artorias from Dark Souls 1, simply because there's a grave and there's a big wolf that shows up eventually. So this fight, I was like, oh, this is weird. It's like an NPC fight, but it's a boss fight. Oh, that's kind of disappointing. That's not what I was expecting. So I kill all his little wolves. I've still got my my wind blades or whatever. And he's got a sword and shield, and I'm like trying to knock the shield off, and he just will not accept. So I learned when he jumps, I can roll into his stab, and that's when I can kill him. But then it's a big, massive wolf comes in, and this thing is just a train. Like, it just launches its body at you, and then it like ice breaths you. It was a pain to fight. So I kept trying and dying and failing, and it was really annoying because my two little dinky swords were just not working for this fight. So I'm like, is it time to bring out the retired, I think it was the Farron Greatsword that I used to use in certain parts? People are like, yeah, the Greatsword will like open up the shield. You can actually like parry or remove the shield. So I'm like, all right, let's go back to the Firelink. We pulled out the old Farron Greatsword. I had all of the items now to level this up to +5. So we have a max Farron Greatsword. I'm like, oh, let's see how much damage this does. So I do my like Beyblade win and I kill all the wolves in like one hit. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And then I'm like, all right, sword and shield user, let's go. And then I just like Beyblade, brr, brr, brr. And then the Great Wolf, I'm like, all right, it's time to Beyblade you. And then he's just, nope. And then I died. So it required a little bit of finesse and relearning how to use the Farron Greatsword. But after a few attempts, everything died. It was so much more easy to kill the wolves and the Champion's Gravetender. It was just the big wolf that required a little bit more. Okay, dodge. Okay, this is the time to kill him. So that little side journey in the DLC taught me the importance of changing your weapon for the proper strategy. And so at this point, I don't know where the other boss is at this time. And I'm not sure why I decided to go to Nameless King, but for some reason we decided, let's try the Farron Greatsword on the Nameless King and see how I fare with that. And I ended up spending the rest of the stream on him. So against the Wyvern, the Greatsword was actually quite good, as long as you don't like crazy Beyblade like I was attempting to do. It kills him so much faster that I started to really like going with the Farron Greatsword against the Wyvern of Storm, or whatever it's called. But then the Nameless King, the swing of my Greatsword is so slow, and the window to hack at him and then dodge is so short. The timing was a lot harder to pull off, like getting the Greatsword. And people were like, oh, you have to roll and stab. But then I wasn't able to predict the Nameless King would do 2 swings or 3 swings on his attacks. And if I tried to roll and poke after the second swing, but he had a third attack coming, I would always get messed up. So after a few attempts, the Farron Greatsword wasn't working for me for Nameless King, but it was like really good for helping me get rid of his dragon nice and early. I know I'm calling it Drake, Wyvern, Dragon, whatever. Pick your poison. So I changed my armor loadout because I was like, all right, let's keep the Greatsword and the 2 swords as different loadouts. And to keep my quick rolls, I had to get rid of my helmet. I'm like, doesn't matter. I get hit 2-3 times, I'm dead anyways. Armor isn't that important. So now I have this new strategy where I go in with the Farron Greatsword to take out the Wyvern. Once he's done, I swap out to my Twin Blades, and that's what I go for the Nameless King, just because it really feels satisfying. The rolls, the whoosh whoosh, so I use L2 for every attack, and I just do 1 attack between my rolls. So I roll, swoosh, roll, swoosh, roll, swoosh, and it's such a good dance. And the only problem right now is just my timing. I know his attacks, I know when to do things, but honestly, if you get the timing off just a little bit, he kills me and just destroys me. So I know I'm going to get him sooner or later. And my personal stamina was actually quite used up by last stream. I was actually getting tired and I was getting sloppier. So I'm really hoping that the next stream I will go in fresh and I should be able to kill him after a few attempts. It's just keeping that stamina up because the Nameless King has so much HP that you have to keep that level of attention and execution pretty high compared to the other Dark Souls boss. But once I get it, it's going to be so good. Oh, and I have to keep my adrenaline low so that I don't get all jittery. So all of that together, it's going to happen eventually. I just got to keep at it. And now I've got maybe 1 or 2 streams. I'm going to go through the DLC. I am not pledging those bosses because I don't want to get stuck on a month worth of hard bosses in Dark Souls. I do want to see what the content has to offer. I want to understand what the community has to say about these bosses. So I've got 5 DLC bosses left to do, as well as Nameless King. Nameless King is part of the pledge. The other 5, I'm going to go pay them a visit, see what they're like. If they are as fun as Nameless King, I'm probably going to end up fighting them over and over until I can actually kill them. So if you want to join any of that, I always stream Dark Souls 3 on Tuesdays. We are getting close to wrapping it up. And then after that, I'm not sure where I'm going to go, but we will go on a new journey together through a whole other game. So I'll see you in the next stream, the next video, or wherever you find me. And until next time, classy crew, keep it classy.